Senator Kaine, please.
Dr. Kahl, thank you for being here today. I think your nomination is sort of a proxy for a sharp difference of opinion in this committee and in Congress about the wisdom of the JCPOA, and that is the core of many of the questions today. I believe the JCPOA, though not perfect, was dramatically better than the status quo ante. Democrats supported it, Republicans didn't. But I believe it was dramatically better than the status quo ante, and it's not just me. President Trump's Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, who clearly understood Republican legislative opposition to the JCPOA, advised him to stay in the deal. President Trump's Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, who clearly understood Republican legislative opposition to the JCPOA, advised him to stay in the deal. Head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dunford, who clearly understood Republican opposition to the deal, told President Trump to stay in the deal. Instead, he backed out of the deal, and he shifted the world's attention from Iran's behavior to America's good faith. Would America in good faith follow a diplomatic deal? So just some basic facts about the deal. Didn't the first sentence in the first paragraph of the JCPOA say that Iran reaffirms that it will never purchase, develop or acquire nuclear weapons?
Yes, it does.
Did that have a sunset provision to it?
No.
If Iran had ever sought to purchase, acquire, or develop a nuclear weapon, that would have been a violation of the JCPOA, correct?
Yes.
And that violation would have given the United States a legal rationale if the United States decided it needed to take military action to stop Iran's nuclear program.
Yes, and as I said, I spent my time at the Pentagon planning for exactly that contingency.
And so the U.S. decision to back out of the deal actually takes that ironclad commitment that the U.S. could have used as a legal rationale should it have been necessary, and it now makes that commitment that provision of questionable enforceability, doesn't it?
I worry that it does, yeah.
The JCPOA gave the United States the complete agreement to impose any sanctions we deemed appropriate against Iran for human rights violations, bellicose activities in the region, ballistic missile programs. We had the complete freedom to impose sanctions on any non-nuclear activity under the deal, didn't we?
We do.
The only sanctions relief in the JCPOA was sanctions relief that was specifically about Iran's nuclear program, correct?
Correct.
And that sanction relief would only go to Iran if they followed the JCPOA, correct?
Correct.
And there was an additional element, some of my colleagues have asked about sunsets, there was an additional element of the JCPOA that didn't sunset, like the opening commitment to never purchase, acquire, develop nuclear weapons. The element that didn't sunset was there was about 30 years of enhanced inspection and other requirements that Iran had to follow. But at the end of year 30, those enhanced inspections, many of them, or restrictions on centrifuges, progressively expired. But year 30, Iran had pledged henceforth, it would always follow all IAEA inspection protocols, including the additional protocol that was developed after North Korea cheated on IAEA inspections. And that was permanent and never sunset, correct?
Yeah, it was the most verifiable arms control or non-proliferation agreement ever negotiated.
And those inspections, including the additional protocol, gave the United States significant additional insight into the Iranian program so that if we ever believed they were violating the promise contained in the first sentence, and that then justified military action, we would have better intel to target the military action to achieve our objective, correct?
Yes, our intelligence and military professionals consistently made that point.
We've had intel about Iran for a while, but it's been murky. But what the JCPOA gave us was intel plus this enhanced inspection regime to determine their compliance, but also, if necessary, tragically, to target military activity to make sure that they would never purchase, acquire, develop nuclear weapons, correct?
Yes, if you don't know where something is, it's hard to target it.
I really believe that the controversy over your nomination is essentially a proxy war. Republicans didn't like the Iran deal. They were really happy that President Trump pulled out of it over the objections of Secretary Mattis, Secretary Tillerson, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dunford. I think the activities in the region have demonstrated that the pulling out of that deal has had very, very negative consequences, and we're living them today. It's a very different reality than it was in 2015. But I would like to return to a position where we would have a clearly enforceable international agreement that Iran would never seek to purchase, acquire, or develop a nuclear weapon, and I can't understand why an American president would have blown up such a deal. Thank you, Dr. Kahl.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Kaine.